Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the latest episode of Rocket Lab Weekly. This is episode 30. Crazy. We haven't missed a week since we started with this great show. This is a weird one, however, because I had a guest planned and we even moved the show to Sunday, and then something came up. So this is a solo episode. I'm going to be alone, but I'm going to rely more on the comment section. I want to take questions from you, and maybe even in the end, if there is interest, like some of you guys can come on the show. I think this will be a bit shorter than usually, but I nevertheless think it's going to give very good value. Earnings is soon. It seems like the price has bottomed out at this point. So I want to address a little bit what I think is going to happen to the stock and the market. And I want to talk about different earnings scenarios, like what would make the stock go up on earnings and what would make the stock come down on earnings. So this is what we are going to be covering this week. And please make sure you say hi in the comment section. And yeah, let's begin the show. Hi, Ryan. Hi, Christopher Bell. Thank you guys for being here. So the first news of the week is actually we had a launch. I believe it was Tuesday or Wednesday. Crazy how fast time goes. I actually did a live stream on the launch. It was very late at night for me. And I was very, very impressed by Rocket Lab because it was a very complicated launch. I didn't see them get a lot of credit for it, but they were launching two satellites on two very different orbits. And it was a lot of fire and orbital correction, and I was just very, very impressed. I mean, how many other launch companies do you know, honestly, that routinely launches and they have super complicated missions and you can just sit back and kind of know that they will pull it off? I'm not gonna lie, because I have a lot of Rocket Lab shares. I was a tiny bit nervous but I think if I didn't have the shares, I would be like, these guys have got this. So Dave Huntsman, how are you doing? Tivo, thank you for being here. Brent Andrews, welcome to the live stream. Then this is the Electron kick stage that did all the work. And by the way, I got some error message on the screen. Can you guys see what I'm sharing? Let me just see what the error message is. Okay, it says that there's some sort of an audio problem. So can you guys hear me fine and see me fine? Please let me know in the comments. Or if I went silent, just let me know that. Yes, so by the way, I was amazed on the live stream when they showed that the Curry engine on the kick stage, it like fit into one of the commentators' hands. It was like this big. And that's the rocket engine that basically does all the work of deploying these satellites and then deorbiting the kick stage. So pretty crazy. Okay, I'm getting confirmation that you guys can hear me and see me. Okay, I don't know what the browser was complaining about. Other news this week is the Neutron water tower was going up, and everything seems to be going well with Neutron, except for this damn hot fire test. We are really looking forward to getting some news on the Neutron hot fire test. I really hope that they're going to somehow squeeze in the hot fire before earnings. I really, really hope that, but earnings is in 7 days, guys, or 8 days, depending on when you watch it. It's really, really, really close. So Doug Parcell, I did expect the solar sail satellite would get more press coverage just from its uniqueness. Yes, it was very hard to deploy and it was a very unique satellite, but we didn't get more coverage. I think there will be a day when Rocket Lab will be appreciated a lot more, but we're not there yet. I have some notes here that I wanted to share regarding Neutron, but okay, so we are supposed to have 4 launches, actually 6 launches this quarter. But I started following Scotto 250 2050, sorry. He's a very good Twitter account to follow, and as far as I understand, he has very reliable research on the different launches. He's part of a Discord community, which I suspect is somehow also connected with Dave G. And there is apparently 2 guys there that do very thorough research on when the launches are happening. And we were expecting 7 launches this quarter. It looks like we're getting 4. One has been launched, and no new ones have been announced. So it's a bit slow on this front, but I'm not really worried about the rocket launches. And by the way, if we just keep this pace of 4 launches Q1, 4 launches Q2, and all the way to year end, it's still 16 launches. It's still a 60% increase between launches. So keep that in mind. That's very, very good. Yeah, it's a very, very good increase, and I'm happy with that as a shareholder. Let me see what Christopher Bell says. Hot fires may be delayed, but the hard part is over. Rocket Lab can print whatever they want as far as rockets. Yeah, I guess that's a true story. Yeah, need to show progress on Neutron. Yeah, I'm going to go into the earnings a little bit. So I wanted to cover the stock price from 2 viewpoints. One of them is earnings is coming, and that obviously might change the stock. And macro is happening, all the time. And I wanted to go into like what can change on macro that would change the stock for positive and negative. If we look at the stock chart of Rocket Lab, we are at still near all-time lows. And very interesting technically, every time we came to the 30 mark on the RSI, which is the relative strength indicator. I don't know who's technical here, who's watching and who's not, but basically it's showing if a stock is overbought or oversold. And, people can trade on this. I'm not one of those people, and it's not a perfect indicator. But every time when it has hit 30, it basically it didn't rocket up, but it stopped going down. So for example, at this point somewhere, if it would help me, like here we hit 30, and you can see that it went below here very little bit, but then it started going up. And then here we hit below 30, and then the stock started going sideways and then was going up. So on the short term, we hit 30, the same thing, we started going up. So I am expecting a short term upswing on the stock. And then the big question is it going to come back down and do a wave like this and then go even lower, or are we going to start finally going up? And again, the only way I can answer this question is we have to look at what is the earnings and what can the macro bring us. And I made some interesting notes on this one. So on the earnings, it's so interesting because there's 2 stocks that I follow very much on this channel. That's Palantir and Rocket Lab. And on Palantir, I'm 100%, no, 99.999% sure I'm going to buy call options going into the earnings with money that I'm not afraid to lose, because I'm just very, very sure that Palantir is going to do fantastic on earnings. On Rocket Lab, I think that they're going to do very well on the earnings, but I don't have my conviction high enough to buy call options. And I think that the reason why they're going to do earnings is because, normally if you go into earnings with the stock going down, it resets the expectations, and the earnings just don't need to suck. Then, you're going to get a pop on earnings. Recent example of this is actually Tesla. They fell 30% going into earnings, and everybody was thinking that, okay, the earnings are going to come out. and they're going to suck, and we're going to be loading the boat, on the post earnings crash. And that crash never came, because when you fall in 2 weeks 30% into earnings, the expectations are so low that if Elon just came out saying that, I mean, the earnings really sucked. It was not a good earnings, and it was some positive comments from Elon that they're not canceling the cheap models, and FSD is doing good, and the stock skyrocketed after earnings. Hello, Johnny Mac. Welcome to the stream, Dave. Thank you for a nice comment. So again, welcome, Johnny Mac. Okay, so back to earnings. So I just want to show you what they guided for in their latest earnings released. And what's interesting is this was released after they have done 2 launches in Q1, and they were predicting 2 more launches. So they are expecting a revenue between 92 to 98 million. I just want to remind everyone that this is record revenue. And I suspect that the reason why they have 92 to 98 is because one of the launches were very at the end of the month. And if any delay would come, then they go $6 million down. And that's why it would be 92. So I'm very much expecting that they're going to hit this 98 million. I don't think that they would beat the 98 million, or if they beat, it's not going to be like an NVIDIA beat. Maybe they do 99. It would be amazing if they did 100 million. But I'm just happy if they meet the 98 million. I think Space Systems is also doing very amazing. Well, it's actually, now that I'm speaking, I see that it's very interesting there. They're giving a 5 million gap, and they were very sure in their launch section, and they were giving the 5 million gap to Space Systems. Okay, so it remains to be seen. But this is the first good news that can come out on earnings, is that they keep these numbers, and I'm quite sure that this is going to come. I'm going to give you what I'm not so sure on in the earnings in very short. Christopher Bell. Vince is alone. Blow it up with the inside info, Johnny. I know you got some gold. Okay. Adam King. Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming to the stream. And you're even a channel member. So by the way, huge thank you to the people who are channel members or who support the channel on Patreon. It really gives extra motivation. And obviously, I would like to, whatever. I don't go into this. Just thank you for being a channel member. You're amazing. So first good news on earnings is that they keep to the revenue target. Then maybe we get a Neutron update. That would be very good. A new guidance, I think, could be very good, because Rocket Lab always seems to be guiding only to the next quarter. And if they give a very solid guidance for Q2, then I think finally the analysts can think with that this year is going to be a very big increase for Rocket Lab. Because I think that, let me just show you what, they didn't give a guidance for this year. The only thing that they said in their earnings report is that their backlog is 1 billion or over $1 billion, and they are expecting to use 41% of that backlog, which is higher than 400 million, and that's a huge increase in revenue. But I don't think that the analysts are really pricing this in, because they're just guiding from quarter to quarter. And if they give a really good guidance on Q2, then you really start seeing that this is going to be a very, very good year. And maybe that will give some extra boost to the stock. Then additional good news could be that move the stock up, that the backlog keeps increasing. They might be planning to refly an Electron. So we know that they are planning that, but maybe they give an exact date that, okay, in Q2 or Q3, we're reflying an Electron. And the reason why that is important is the Electron reflight can be learning grounds for Neutron. We know that it brings down their brings up their gross margin for the rocket. So we know that this year the cadence of Electron is really in. So that's one key component to have high margins on Electron. And then the second key component is having reuse. And that seems to be way ahead of schedule, because in the last, whenever I heard Adam Spice spoke last, he said that they're not working on reusing Electron this year. Then they could be announcing some new contract on the earnings call. This is like some low probability things that can happen, but these are the possible good catalysts that I think can happen on the earnings call. I don't. So okay, then the bad things that can happen now. So if they announce that Neutron is not flying this year, and they give a new timeline, I think, at least I'm pretty sure that a lot of this is already priced into the stock. So unless they say something like Neutron is flying in 2027, I don't think that the stock will react to it a lot, but maybe. I'm not sure. Then again, back to the guidance. They were guiding for adjusted loss of 28 to $30 million. And if you go back to their charts, you can see that their losses have been 26 million, 20 million, 60 million. And it was a huge jump with the loss in the Q4 2023. And that jump, we all know that this is because of the Neutron development, but I think that the algos and the analysts, like, it irks them that the loss is growing, even though we can see that the gross margin is very nicely going up. So if they miss on this and the loss becomes 35 million or 40 million because there's just more costs with the Neutron development, I think that will negatively hit the stock. If you put a gun to my head, this, as I said, on Palantir, I'm buying call options. On Rocket Lab, I think that we're going to have good earnings, but I don't have. I think really anything can happen on this earnings. If you put a gun to my head and you ask me, like, I have to give an opinion, I would say that the stock is going to go up after earnings, but I'm not feeling this as much as I am feeling Palantir. We have Peter Beck here in the chat with us. They currently have over 230 job openings and are filling key roles for both Neutron and Archimedes. Things are definitely heating up in the background. That's true. So I want to say that on we are not getting the Archimedes engine test flight, and I feel that the stock and the street has super much attention on trying to make this engine fly. But there's so much things happening in the background. I mean, just this post that the water tower is going up. In the last rocket launch, they actually had a Neutron person, I think it was a lead engineer for Neutron or something, on the actual live stream. You see continuous job postings for Neutron. So definitely things are happening, but for some reason the street is like, okay, give me the engine, or I don't believe anything is happening. So Christopher Bell is saying, while Relativity just closed, should get some great people from them. Did I miss news on this? Because the last news that I heard on Relativity was that they are raising 1 billion in funding in the Series F or something like this. I didn't read in the news that failed and they're closing down. And also, like, in their presentation, they were saying that they are a one-stop shop company. And Francisco Ramirez sent me a message, and I think he was implying in the message that they're copying Rocket Lab, but they are not fully copying Rocket Lab. They are saying that the one-stop shop space transportation company. So they're not going into the space system side. They are advertising themselves as they can take you to orbit. They are working on a orbital tug development machine, which I don't know how good it is that you don't even have a rocket that goes to orbit yet, and you're already working on a second development, which is a lot of capex. And yeah, I don't necessarily think that that's the good way to go, but that's the way that they are going. Oh, what happened here? We lost the screen share. Let me just handle my technical issues, guys. Share this tab. Okay, so thanks for everybody being here. Let me see some of the comments. It's not as easy because, normally when you have a guest, then while they're talking, you can check the comments. Now I'm doing both at the same time, and I cannot I cannot talk and read the comments at the same time. So okay, Adam King. Such a shitty looking water tower though. Thought everything should be functional but beautiful too. That baby should be carb up fire too, and still no Rocket Lab merch, Vince. Do you want me to make Rocket Lab merch, or do you want Rocket Lab to release Rocket Lab merch? Just curious about your opinion. And I don't know about the water tower. It's not looking that bad. It's maybe this picture that you're looking at is not so sexy, but there was another picture. Let me see if I have that, where they did a close up on this tower. I don't have it now, but when you're looking at it close up, I mean, it's a water tower. Like you cannot innovate so much on a water tower. Peter Beck. I wonder if Peter Beck will be bringing his donkey to the earnings call. Yeah, he's definitely riding his donkey, and it's not an easy ride. Yeah, exactly, Francisco Ramirez. But they said that they're not they're an end-to-end transportation. So they didn't say like end-to-end space company with space system satellites. It was like what do you call it? It was like that they will have orbital tug machines, and they can take you to the moon, and they can do any space transportation that you need. Adam King. So you want me to make merch? Okay, duly noted. I will think about it. Yeah, so Adam, that's pad 2 of the original proposed. One pad built over the Atlantic, already one ahead. Okay, cool. So let's go back to I wanted to talk to you. So I talked to you about what I think the stock might do after earnings. Now I want to speak to you a little bit about what I think macro-wise can happen to the stock. So my belief is that we're not going to go lower than this. I think that would be retarded from Wall Street because, we hit this point first sometime, or this range, in 2022 June, almost 2 years ago. Since then, the company has improved insane much. We are a prime contractor. We have a $500 million contract. We soon might get another NSSL contract. We have 22 launches this year. Space Systems is kicking ass. There's just so much that has happened that going below this level, I feel it's just pure retarded. It can happen, but I don't think that it's happening. And Rocket Lab is a very volatile stock. You can see that whenever we hit this point, we go back to 7, and then we go down, and then we go back to 5, and then we go down, and then we go back to 5 within a month, and then slowly we come back down, and then we go to 8. So I think that something like this is coming, some sharp move up. Maybe it's not going to be this intense. Maybe it's going to, match this angle. It took us, what is it, from December to April, basically 4 months. Maybe it will take us another 4 months to get back to 6. But this is definitely what I think is going to happen. And the only thing that can stop this is the macro. But on the macro, I feel that like, when the market was going up, like we tended to price in, the best case scenarios. And now I feel that the market is pricing in the worst case scenarios. So, what is being priced in is, rates are going to stay this high forever, basically, or there's no rate cuts this year. I do think that, yeah, that can happen, but that's, how do you call it? Like if you have like the super optimistic, which is 7 rate cuts, and the max pessimistic, which is the 0 rate cuts, I think we're definitely pricing in the max pessimistic. Then, there's a potential for war breaking out in Israel and Iran. That is, it feels like it's being, that situation luckily is not escalating. So the things are calm on this front. The only thing that I think can also maybe ruin Rocket Lab is if the S&P 500 goes into a bigger correction. Because if you look at the S&P 500 chart, we are very near all-time highs, and it does feel like the market, I don't know about you guys, but I mean, my portfolio is 2 stocks, and I think I'm down like almost $100,000 since the beginning of this year. So that's not good, but it's such a small, tiny dip on the S&P 500. So if the S&P 500 dips more, it could be that it brings Rocket Lab with it. Although Rocket Lab, again, is very close to all-time lows, and it doesn't necessarily need to follow the S&P 500. So that's what I covered for this week. Let me know, guys, if you have any questions for me. Sven, welcome. And yes, the RQ ETF is loading up on Rocket Lab. A lot of people are loading up on Rocket Lab. It's a very interesting community, and I think a very, very good community. And all I see when the stock is red, on Tesla, for example, when the stock goes red, you see bulls turning into bears, and some people start to criticize Elon Musk. And on Rocket Lab, it's so interesting because I would expect that some people start criticizing Peter Beck, or like some people would turn bearish on the stock. I see very few people who are worried, and most of you are just adding, which is, and most of you are like, yeah, this is a long-term investment, which is fantastic to see for 2 reasons. One, because you guys are very special, and that is real investing. Real investing is not that I'm going to buy this stock and it should 10x in a month, and then I sell out and I go to the next stock. Real investing is, really loading up on stocks and just keeping to them, and adding if they go down. And I truly believe, I actually reread Chris Meyer's 100 Baggers book this week, and Peter Lynch's One Up on Wall Street, and I really believe Rocket Lab is going to, or has a chance at being a 100 bagger stock if you hold it long enough. And that's 20 years, 25 years. I think it easily can be a 1, 2, 3 bagger relatively soon. But I'm very, very happy to see that you guys are such good investors, And the second thing is that to have a stock really, really rally, you need a loyal shareholder base that is not going to sell because, the stock is up 30% and we need to take profits. And I don't get the impression that any of you are like this, You guys are gung-ho and, going to, or most of you stay with the stock for a very, very long term. And it's very, very nice to see. And this can really help the stock when we moon, like we really, really moon, because people are just not selling the stock. I mean, that's clearly not the case. I don't know who's selling at these levels, but this community is not going to be selling when we go up. So Sven, I agree. Well, we're not ruining Rocket Lab, but so I've seen this on Palantir. I don't know how new you are to the channel. I bought Palantir at $8, and when the Ukraine-Russia war broke out, Palantir fell like 10% in the opening, when it was clear as day that they are going to be one of the major beneficiaries of this war. And I think that if war breaks out, Rocket Lab is going to get a lot more contracts, and a lot more money is going to be flowing to the company. But that's what we think and we know. And I think when Wall Street panics, they just, they sell first and then they ask questions later. So it might be that Rocket Lab, if war breaks out, goes lower, but that's, in that case, it's a buy the dip opportunity. So let me see, the Booyaka 76. Yeah, so that's true actually. So Varda, that was the pharmacy that the space pharmacy that Rocket Lab launched, and that was a pilot. Since then, Rocket Lab brought it back in one piece. It was a successful mission, and Varda, the company that commissioned Rocket Lab, actually got new funding. So the speculation is that some of that funding is going to go into more Rocket Lab launches. And by the way, the last launch that they did this week, the KaiSat one, the Korean one, that was also they even called it the beginning of the swarm, I think. So they're going to have like 10 more satellites, and those contracts have not been assigned yet to anyone. And I suspect that it's going to be Rocket Lab that is going to be launching those satellites. Yeah, I don't know so much about the space pharma field. And yes, definitely, Peter Beck did mention that like bringing things back down from orbit is something that not a lot of people are looking at, and they are evaluating if that's a good business. Yeah, so the 20% short is the same institutions currently loading up on the stock. They want it good and cheap. Yeah, I did read something on the capped call transaction. So when they started raising this money, this 500 million, they did say that the institutions who are offering them this deal and they go into this option trade with them, they have to basically hedge something. And that this can negatively affect the stock price in the short term. So it could be that those guys are shorting the stock so that they counterbalance the capped call or whatever. It's very complicated for me. I try to get data on it. If any of you guys are experts at this capped call preferred equity raise, please let me know. I would be happy to speak to you on this. But it could be that these institutions were making their hedges, and they completed their portfolios now, and they completed the hedge, and now the selling pressure will get much lower on the stock, allowing us for a nice rally. So Andrew Thorpe, it's hard to be bearish because the company is executing better and better. Backlog has grown 100%. Tesla has more to criticize and become bearish about. That's also true. So Rocket Lab is such an interesting case of the company executing insanely well and the stock price going the straight opposite direction. So, and I mean, I tend to think that this community is awesome. So, but yes, that's also a point that it's hard to be bearish on the stock because it's definitely not a broken company and it's definitely a broken stock. No complaints on the execution. I've been told I'm special before, but I'm not sure it was a compliment. Okay, so this time, I don't know what the other people meant before. I mean it as a compliment. So there was an interview last week with Varda CEO, and he said that they're closing deals every 2 weeks. What did he mean by closing deals every 2 weeks? Like for the stuff that they brought back from space, or does he mean that they're closing deals for the next launches? I missed this interview. Oh, I'm sorry. I have my son up, so I just have to go and put him back to sleep. One sec. Okay, hello guys. So yeah, that's a very good comment. We are either all delusional or we were doing very well in 5 to 10 years. I was speaking with Matt Money, and he's very, very sure that Rocket Lab is going to be between $10 to $15. And if we would reach $15, my portfolio would be more than $1 million. And I was like, yeah, that's just crazy if that would happen. That's also true. Rocket Lab is prime short squeeze material with 20% short interest rate. So yeah, again, this is why, anything can happen on earnings. So that's true. Like if the earnings is a little good, and let's say that we get a 5% increase in the stock price, and that can make the shorts start to cover. And I think that the short interest, like if all the shorts would need to cover, I think it was like 3 days, or maybe it's now 5 days to cover all the short interest. So we could get a very substantial swing up because the shorts are frantically trying to cover. Yeah, the upcoming announcement of Constellation contract will surprise everyone and will be massive in long-term profits. Johnny and Francisco knows what I'm talking about. It would be absolutely insane. So I saw a video by Scott O, very, very good channel. He was also a guest 2 weeks ago, I think, on the Rocket Lab Weekly. And he did a calculation on Rocket Lab's backlog. And he because like some contracts we know, so we know that the backlog is 1 billion, and we know that the SDA contract is 530,000, so that there is 500 million left. And then if you back everything, all the known parts out, then this mystery customer is basically not there. So we think that that's Amazon, who is ordering the Kuiper satellites and maybe also the launches of the satellites. But it's it's somehow missing from their backlog, and I don't know how they can legally leave it out of the backlog. And once that gets announced, I think that should be a very big boost to the stock price. Okay, guys, I'm gonna take a few more comments, and then I'm going to call it the night. Couch Investor, thank you so much for being here. And yes, make sure that you like the stream. And yeah. Yeah, that's also true. I think it's by 1 trillion by 2040. I think by 2030, they are expecting it to be a trillion, the space market, but I'm not sure. Yeah, okay. I actually have to look up this short squeeze thing, how real it is. Give me 1 sec, guys. So I'm looking at FinViz, and normally they have somewhere here short float 20%, and they have one, I think it's this one, this short ratio, like how many days is it to cover all the, like if you look at the average volume. So if all the shorts would try to cover and frantically exit the stock, it would take 6 days to cover that. I'm pretty sure that that's that. And it's not outrageous yet, because I actually was looking into short squeeze strategies at one point when I was a technical investor. And I think that it's when the short squeeze is more than 2 weeks. So like to cover the stock is more than 2 weeks. That's when you're really a candidate for short squeeze, because if there's any trigger, it's like impossible for the shorts to get out, because they short the stock so much. But the 6 days is quite up there. Okay, I'm just gonna. So let me see this. Jed Luke, did you read the article where Rocket Lab should have scaled Electron and added boosters for extra lift, would compete with Falcon 9, but just as a hypothetical? No, I didn't read that one. And I don't think things work this way, because then you could say that, yeah, why is SpaceX developing the Starship? Because they could have just scaled up Falcon. And I think that the engineering and physics is different. And Electron was not designed to be fully reusable. And they say this a lot, that Neutron has, like, everything about it is designed to be fully reusable from the get-go. And I think that, yeah, the physics of it and the engineering of it wouldn't work. Otherwise, they would have done it. I mean, Peter Beck, he's a very, I don't want to say cheap, but he's a very frugal guy, and he's very smart on how he spends his money. And trust me, if they could have scaled Electron and just compete with the Falcon 9, they would have done it. Yeah, good question. What are people's averages? I actually don't know my average. Let me see if I can go into. I would guess it's in the low fours, like 430 maybe. And it could be that Interactive Brokers is not showing it, because okay, it says 450 is my average, but a big chunk of my Rocket Lab position got assigned to me because I sold put options. And I'm pretty sure that Interactive Brokers is not thinking with that, because I did get paid 37 cents for those put options on every share. So probably my real average is lower, but Interactive Brokers says my average is 450, which is just a bit lower than Urban X. Now that's a real live stream. I just put my little guy down. He is 9 and he's in Rocket Lab 2. Got about 200 shares. Wow, that's amazing, Adam King. By the way, my son also has Rocket Lab shares. I believe he has like 5 or something. It's not that I'm pushing my daughter and my son, but the topic of investing came up in the family. Actually, the topic of inflation came up because my daughter came home one day and was like, Daddy, how come that last year the chips was 10 Swedish crowns and now the same thing is 15 Swedish crowns? And she's very smart, my daughter. And then it came up like how you can protect against inflation. And then, days went by, and then she's like, I want to invest, because she has some money that is sitting on her account. And then I was like, okay, I mean, you can't buy real estate with the money, but you could buy stocks. And, I know this stock. And then they bought a little Rocket Lab. So it's very, very interesting. Yeah, short report said 6.5 days to cover. I mean, yeah, the Finrus says it's 6.3 days. It's about the same. 19,000 shares at 432. Couch investor. For your average is exactly $4. I mean, that's pretty good. What do I think about True Anomaly shedding a quarter of their workforce? Um, yeah, True Anomaly. Yeah, it's not good news. I think that they were. It's a bit late here. I think that they are the guys who had the lunar lander, right? Let me just double check so I'm not saying. Okay, maybe I. Okay, it's a bit late. I don't know if I'm thinking about the right company, but a lot of these space companies are very cash strapped, and it's not a good time to raise finances. So yeah, unfortunately, there might be a lot more layoffs coming in the space sector, and it's an opportunity for Rocket Lab to pick up some very talented people. Cool guys, I have very enjoyed this live stream. It was better than I thought that it would be. Thank you for so many of you for showing up. I know the counter on StreamYard is not working. It says that there is 170 people here. I'm sure we're not 170 people. But anyways, it was a lot of comments. I really like you guys. I really like this community. Yeah, UrbanX, thank you. It was Intuitive Machines, exactly. So True Anomaly is yeah, the other one that is going to yeah, I know which one it is now. So anyways, thank you so much for being members. Special thanks for the people who are channel members and support the channel on Patreon and or becoming channel members. You, by the way, get the same thing on both. I don't want to make a difference. I think it's cooler to become a channel member because then when you comment that you have like a little sign next to your name, and yeah, it's just cooler. Earnings is in 7 days. There's going to be one more Rocket Lab Weekly, and the Rocket Lab Weekly after is probably going to be a big one. I think Dave G is going to be there. I hope Scotto is going to be there. Maybe Matt Money is going to be there, and we're going to dig deep in the numbers, and it's going to be awesome. I think I'm going to be live streaming the earnings also. So yeah. Anyways, have a great Sunday evening. Thank you so much for being here, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Ciao, ciao.